Not so many years ago, I could sit down and embroider for hours on end, for a whole day even, with very little interruption, with very little need to pause, to put down my work, to take care of other business, or just give my body a break. Granted, this was largely while I was unemployed during the pandemic. Now I rarely feel like I have the time to embroider anymore, and sometimes I miss sitting down to focus on this craft for a big chunk of time like I used to. But on the other hand, maybe I don't really want to. Maybe I don't have the focus or the interest or the back strength to work on just embroidery for a whole day. I don't know though. Let's find out. I was 23 when I first stayed in London, touring the museums and palaces, gawking at the royal gowns on display in honor of the Queen's 90th birthday. So many of them were laden with stunning embroidered details, and as I stared at these incredible pieces of artwork, I thought, that's just a needle pulled through fabric over and over and over again. I could do that. It was at least 6 months later that I finally grabbed a cheap embroidery kit from a big box store on a whim. I didn't know about splitting floss, didn't know that this floss was more like a cotton pearl than a typical 6-strand, didn't know how to get the fabric ridiculously tight in a hoop, but I had done plenty of hand stitching before while constructing theater costumes at college, and I'd tried cross-stitch once as a kid, maybe in 4th or 5th grade. I knew how to thread a needle, how to tie a knot by rubbing my fingers together the way my mom had taught me. And the kit came with a simple guide for a few basic stitches, which I tested on the edge of my fabric. Satin stitch, lazy daisy, French knots, chain stitch. It took me another 6 months to slowly finish that first piece. I didn't pick it up and sink in immediately. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the colors and the textures, the two elements of embroidery I would continue to love most over the years, but I wasn't obsessed or hyper-focused. It was a nice thing to pick up every now and then between shifts at 4 different part-time jobs and a very major life event that we shan't get into right now. And perhaps it was the next major life shift that turned embroidery from a fun little side distraction to my #1 hobby. All I know is that by the time I was putting the final stitches in that chunk of vivid floral, my brain was churning out new ideas to try faster than I would ever be able to keep up. I have never been able to keep up with all the things my brain wants to embroider. The last bit of embroidery inspiration struck a couple days ago when I was flicking through a collection of J.R.R. Tolkien's artwork. Yeah, the dude could write and paint apparently, and realized some of it was the style I specifically love for recreation in thread, sectioned off bits of color. I never got into thread painting, that blending method that makes embroidery look almost as realistic as a photograph at times. I always liked colors butting up against each other but clearly separated. I doubt I'll ever get around to stitching Tolkien's artwork though. Heck, his map of Middle-earth has been on my list for years now, haven't even gotten close. At first, my ideas were mostly small and quick, so I could stitch them one after the other and stack them up in a Ziploc bag once finished. I never ran out of ideas, mostly because my style has always been recreating other people's artwork in thread, and that abounds endlessly, but I was at least nipping at the heels of my inspiration for a while there. Eventually, the things I wanted to stitch became bigger and more complex, and suddenly a piece would take weeks to complete, months, years. My inspiration list was long, and for every piece I finished, another 10 to 100 would appear. I learned to let go of some of them. My rule now is 3 embroidery pieces at a time. I break that rule sometimes, but right now I'm being good, if you don't consider a skirt covered in felt stitched down with French knots to be an embroidery piece. I don't count it. There's the Beauty and the Beast stained glass embroidery piece that I've been working on for 3.5 years. The scene from Disney's Fantasia that I've been working on for 2.5 years, and my Conta-inspired flamingo piece, which I typically only work on while traveling or out of the house, like on lovely mornings when I want to sit in the backyard and enjoy the peace and quiet and squirrel acrobatics. Actually, this doesn't happen much. I might take my phone and my coffee and even my doodling sketchbook and spend 10 or 15 minutes out here, but then I'm distracted by the list in my head, my schedule for the day, all the things I need to do. It's weird to have assigned myself nothing but this today. You can either stitch on this piece out here, or you can stitch on another piece somewhere else. But today is for stitching. I'm glad I sat down to work on this piece because the last time I stitched on it, I finished all the green, all of the Monstera leaves. So I kind of just had a mess of thread to clean up. The first half hour was just me untangling and winding a bunch of floss. But now we are on to the flamingo. I got its beak done, onto the pink. Yay. It's nice to have made a little bit of progress on it. I was definitely very distracted by the squirrels and the birds. They finally found my bird feeder. The squirrels always knew it was there, but for like the first couple weeks, the birds just didn't seem to have noticed it. And then one day, all of a sudden, they were like, ah, bird feeder. And now there's always a whole little flock of them on the bird feeder and sitting around waiting their turn. It makes me very happy. Also, 2 days ago, we saw them use the fountain as a bird bath for the first time, and we were thrilled. I'll have to see if I can catch them over there with the camera, not actually catch them. But it's kind of hard to anticipate them landing on the fountain. But yeah, now instead of trying to get into the bird feeder, the squirrels can just sit underneath it and the birds knocks them off and they can just eat from down there. But I see why dogs find squirrels so entertaining. They really are. They're lots of fun to watch. At one point they were running around chasing each other and they were playing on the lounge chairs, and I had put a strawberry out there and watched them like discover that it was there, and then one of them like was slowly creeping more towards it and then finally sat down and ate the whole thing. It was so cute. I love being outside. I love the weather right now. But we are gonna move inside. Onward! But first, a quick pit stop to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. If you have been thinking about getting into embroidery, or knitting, or drawing, or quilting, or even cake decorating, then Craftsy could be the perfect option for you. Craftsy is your online source for all things creative. Their classes are broken down into short, easy-to-follow lessons taught by experienced, award-winning instructors who will inspire and encourage through every step of the creative journey. I was so excited to find Jamie Curl's class on candy making. It's such a niche interest, but I've been wanting to try making a bunch of candy types for years. I feel so much more prepared now thanks to her expert instruction. Craftsy has over 2,000 classes in more than 20 creative categories, so I will never run out of new skills to learn here, and y'all know I love learning. If you are also a curious creative who never wants to stop learning, then give Craftsy a try. Click the link in the description to get the first full year of Craftsy Premium for only $1.49. This offer is valid for new members only. Thank you to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to embroidery. This piece is the largest one I've ever embroidered, or will be once it's finished, I suppose. It didn't seem so crazy to take on back when I started it in early 2022. I clock in and out when I'm working on it, so I'll have a count of the hours it actually took to stitch. We're currently over 500, and I can see on the app I use that while I often just stitched for an hour or two at a time, there were periods near the start when I was spending 4, 5, or even 6 hours stitching on it in one day. And that's not my unemployed in Brooklyn era anymore. What was I doing that allowed me that much time just to stitch? Oh yeah, I was technically unemployed in LA, pursuing YouTube as a career, yay! I guess embroidery counted a little more as work for me back then. Nowadays, even though I have a long-running video in progress about this piece, it feels like a hobby again, something to do in my spare time. Only over the years, as I've developed a love for so many arts and crafts and turned my exploration of them into YouTube videos, I've also developed a love for a lot of hobbies to fill what I consider to be non-working hours. Embroidery is rarely part of my work schedule now, but it also has a lot of competition as a hobby. Puzzles, doodling, reading, working on random bits of my garden. There are months where I don't even touch this beast, as I lovingly refer to it, and I always feel a little sad about that, especially since it's stored right in our living room, frequently in my line of vision. But I don't feel the need to pressure myself into working on it anymore either, and that's a good thing. I want to enjoy it, and I'm not in a rush. I trust myself to finish it, however long it takes, unless some circumstance out of my control interferes. Sometimes I wonder if I would be brokenhearted or relieved if circumstances took this piece away. Probably both. Would you believe I have hopes to embroider more like this? Wild, right? This specific journey started with a much smaller rendition of the final stained glass window in Disney's Beauty and the Beast, artwork by Mac George that I have always found incredibly beautiful. It took months to stitch. I finished it during that aforementioned unemployed in Brooklyn era. And it was definitely my most complex embroidery piece at that time, but it wasn't long after I finished it that I found myself wanting to give it another go. I had found a more detailed rendering of the original image. I wanted to do it bigger, better, with more accurate color choices and more of the tiny sections I had missed the first time around. And even though I usually never make the same thing twice, I did it. It was like twice as big and used way more colors, so that kind of counted as not the same thing twice for me. It also took over twice as long. While I was still working on that piece, I started eyeing the rest of the stained glass images used in the movie to tell the prologue. There are 14 in total, kinda. This one is really just a zoomed in version of this one, so really more like 13. And, yeah. I'd like to stitch them all. Why? I don't know. Insanity, maybe. It's not like I'm obsessed with the movie or the artwork itself. I just think it looks really great in thread. So, one down, another one partially down, 11 more to go, in theory. I decided that this one would be the biggest of the group, the others ranging in size and even shape, like I might do these as squares rather than the typical screen-sized rectangle, but that's a lot of work and a lot of time, especially at the speed I've been going, so again, why? Honestly, it may never happen. I have a lot of other embroidery ideas to take on, so maybe I should let this one go after the Beast is done. Maybe I'll switch to Tolkien's artwork after all. Who's to say? Stitching on this one is definitely way different, especially than the Kanto one, which is, you know, freehand, free hoop, free frame. It's not in a frame of any kind, and it's just in my lap. This one requires a level of shrimping that is not great, you know? I noticed that when I do stitch on it, I tend to average about an hour, and I think that's because after an hour, my back is hurting, my neck is hurting. It's just so hunchy. I also get my face like really close to this when I'm stitching because I'm trying to get my stitches so precise. And also some of the stitches on here are literally like 1 millimeter. So the progress is slow, but it's not necessarily being slow and more detailed and really tiny that makes me work on it less or for less stretches of time. I think it really is just, it hurts. And everyone always suggests like, oh, you need it to be on a tilted frame or something. Honestly, that doesn't make a huge difference. You can only tilt a piece of this size so much before you're not able to get your hand underneath properly to be able to stitch. Like I couldn't stitch on this completely vertically in front of me because I wouldn't be able to get my hand up around the back to actually stitch, yes? So you can only diagonal it, angle it so much, and that amount doesn't really help, especially with me being, you know, this close, so I can see my tiny stitches. So this one's just gonna have to keep on being very slow progress, and I have had enough of it for today. But of course, I still have one more embroidery piece, so let's go work on that one. The last time I spent a full day stitching, several actually, wasn't 2020. It actually wasn't all that long ago. Summer of 2024, I signed up for a Jacobean crewel work class with the Royal School of Needlework in London. It was an incredible experience all around. I mean, we stitched in a castle, so, you know, not something I had ever thought to put on my bucket list, but it felt like a bucket list experience all the same. Despite not being the best at following rules or taking classes, I did enjoy learning the historically accurate way to create a crewel embroidery design, and getting to stitch with a group was a first time and very interesting experience for me as well. My main takeaway from the course though, which I talked about in that video, was that stitching for 8+ hours a day didn't feel great on any part of my body. The back, the neck, the hands, the fingers, the eyes, even just the mind kinda needed rest from the hours upon hours of what I normally consider very peaceful and enjoyable repetitive movements. Granted, plenty of people around the world do embroidery professionally as their job for many hours a day and many hours a week, so maybe I was just being whiny. I think there's a lot of specific stuff people can do to make professional embroidery sustainable as a career though. You see embroiderers sitting on the floor with low frames holding their stretched fabric. You see a lot of double-handed embroidery, which I've tried several times to master and given up on every time. My left hand is useless. You see stuff like one-handed French knots, which fascinated me so much I did a whole deep dive to learn how to do them myself. And honestly, I can immediately tell a huge difference just in stitching this Fantasia piece as opposed to the Beauty and the Beast one. I'm able to sit in a more comfortable chair, and even though this frame is still rather large and unwieldy, I can move it around with much more ease and bring it closer to me. Plus, I'm doing this piece in 6-strand cotton floss, unsplit, using all 6 strands, which means the floss is way thicker and covers ground much faster. It's a split stitch, so there's this lovely, fairly consistent yet not at all perfect texture, and I enjoy it so much. I think this is why I always want 3 embroidery pieces going. I'm assuming one of them will always be a Beauty and the Beast piece, basically until the day I either give up on that whole quest or expire myself. That means one piece will always be satin stitch in 2 strands of floss. Tiny stitches, lots of detail, very particular. The third piece is always my travel one, something light, unframed, easy to carry around with me, and often free-handed or done with a very simple design. Although, I'm actually planning to start EPP as my travel project once I finish the flamingo, so that kind of falls into a totally different style. But this second piece is something else that I can't carry around, something framed and unwieldy and requiring more focus. It needs to always be very different than the satin stitch perfection of the Beauty and the Beast piece. I don't know what it will be next. I certainly won't force myself to start something as soon as this one is done, but I have a feeling I'll automatically want to start something because I like having embroidery for different creative moods. I'm not always in the mood to do millimeter-long stitches in the center of a giant frame while shrimping like my life depends on it. Sometimes I want to whip my way through a bunch of split stitch. Maybe it really will be the Middle-earth map next. Maybe I'll do the floss swatch piece that I've gathered over 100 different types of floss for. Maybe I'll have a totally new idea by then. Maybe I'll give it up altogether because I've gotten completely immersed in pottery or stained glass or miniature making. Who's to say? At this point, I'm just rambling.
Yay, excitements! Yay!
Good
That's so much spinning! Do you want to go for a walk?
Yay!
That's so much excitement! Let's go for a walk! Yeah!
Y'all, my back! Ouch! There are a series of questions that I wanted to answer by doing this experiment. Can I embroider all day? Yes. Should I embroider all day? Probably not. Do I want to embroider all day? Not as much as I think I do. And did I embroider all day? Well, not really. Because, like, here's the thing. Time-wise, sure, you could say it was an all-day thing. I took a pretty long lunch break, and also, like, all the moving the camera around to film takes some amount of time. I stopped at pretty much my normal stopping work time. I usually try to stop working at 6 o'clock every day. I wasn't timing as I went how much I actually stitched, but I was filming every single time I was embroidering. So I don't know how long I embroidered right now, but I will know during editing when I can piece all that footage together and look at the final time, which is whatever this number is. I don't know. Do I want to guesstimate? I have a feeling I didn't even do a full 8 hours. Regardless of the time spent, it wasn't quite the same as me taking a full day to embroider just for the fun of it or whatever. I mean, I turned it into a video, which means I turned it into my job, which is one of my favorite things to do. Just like take a thing that I want to do, but I feel like I don't really have time to do because I'm too busy doing my job, and turn it into my job, so then I feel like I have time to do it. Anyway, all that to say, I think if I was trying to just embroider for a full day, not for a video, then I would really struggle with it, not just because of the back and neck pain, which is the main reason why I don't do this, but also because I have a natural desire, need to get something done. It was quite reminiscent of 2020 in a way that, quite honestly, wasn't always pleasant. Like sitting there embroidering for long periods of time with no other plans for the day, while the terrifying state of the world, and particularly my own country, cycles through my head on a loop. Y'all, art and crafting is very calming, but when you're doing something that you're pretty used to doing, it does free up a lot of brain space to just think. Which can be a good thing. Some of us really need some good thinking time, but it can also be like spiral inducing. Anyway, ultimately it was really nice to work on all 3 of my embroidery pieces because I haven't touched any of them in quite a while, some of them in quite a while, but I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed sitting down for a full day and embroidering, but I do think the lesson that I learned from it is that I don't really want to sit down for a full day and embroider. I think it's more that I just want to embroider more frequently. Not for a full day, but I would love to start prioritizing some time for embroidery. Little bits, an hour a day, not even every day, just a little more time than I have been. I've gotten a lot more into doing various other stuff with my free time, and I would love to give some more attention to all of my embroidery pieces. Anyway, bit of a different style of video today, but I thought I would experiment and do something different, and now I'm gonna go eat a baked potato. Irish goodbye!
Come here! Puppy, come here!
Oh, yummies!
Come here!
Come here with your cuteness! Boink. Testing of the voice, testing of my willingness to speak outside. Am I willing? Maybe. What is tickling me? No, I think it's a hair.
Stop running away from me.
I'm just doing things. It's not my fault you can't keep up.